Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. I'm Keith Tebow. Thank you for joining us early this morning. If you're live on Facebook at 9 a.m. or 9:10, now that we're broadcasting live on Facebook, or if you're watching this later on Facebook, or if you're watching us on channel 95 in Fall River, thank you for joining us as we continue to talk to a number of individuals in our community as we all deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus far, we've had the great opportunity to speak with some of our local elected officials, our legislative delegation. We've spoken to two of the three in the House of Representatives. We're going to bring in that third member this morning. Pleased to be joined now this morning by State Representative Paul Schmid. Representative, thank you for joining me. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Keith. And I always feel that I'm very lucky to be part of the Fall River delegation. We're a tight group. We work together, and that seems to be what it's all about up on Beacon Hill. As they say, one person alone can't do much, but you get a good team, and I think we've produced for this area.
You know, I like to ask everyone that I've been interviewing, especially those locally, this is something we're going through that we've never imagined we would be going through. Probably we hope a once in a lifetime situation. And even though people like you, Paul, are in levels of leadership in terms of leading our community, you're also a human being. You're also dealing with this pandemic. How are you and your family dealing with this personally?
Well, Keith, I guess we're doing it the way everybody else is out there. We just take this day by day. There's no playbook for this, is there?
No.
We've never experienced anything like it. And, at the end of some days, I'm just drained. People really kind of come to us as the last resort when they've been trying for 4 days to get on the unemployment assistance website. They're running out of money. The rent's was due last week, 2 weeks ago. And they really look to us to help them. And we try. Sometimes not easy, but we do our best. And as I mentioned, it does leave you a little drained. And I think that's the way it is for everybody, every one of us trying to get through the day in this incredibly unusual experience.
Let me ask you, I've asked all the other representatives this same question. For you, you're a little different in that you serve part of Fall River, but you also serve Westport. You serve a part of New Bedford. I mean, there's a wide swath of your constituency. Are you hearing the same types of questions that you just mentioned? People still seeking their unemployment, seeking small business loans. Has that lessened up at all?
Well, by the way, throw in Freetown. So it's Westport, Fall River, Freetown, and New Bedford. No, it really hasn't. And now we're going to start getting a lot of calls from folks who are trying to log on to the pandemic unemployment assistance, the new program that is now live in the state for all those folks who do not get W-2s. And the state had to build a whole new program to accommodate those workers. And it's going live this morning. And I know people will be frustrated to get on, just as they have been frustrated getting on to the regular UA platform. And they'll be calling us, so it'll be busy. In addition, Keith, when the CARES program came out and the payroll protection program came out 3 weeks ago, a lot of businesses picked up the phone to their banks to get an application in. But some businesses don't bank with a institution that can do this program for them. So they're still looking around for a bank that they can apply through. And some are still looking, and some are seriously looking at closing, and working along with them, keeping their spirits up, keeping them moving forward is I guess that's another big part of our job. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me also ask you, how has communication been from Boston? I want to talk about the legislature in general, in specific rather, but in general, are you getting regular updates from the governor's office and public health officials to make sure that you're informed about what's happening here in the South Coast?
Yeah, yes, we are. Governor's office, and of course, he delegated the pandemic response to Secretary Mary Lou Sutters, who is a very unusual public servant. We get good communication from them. Down here, we're very lucky to have a very good relationship with the Lieutenant Governor. And we can pick up the phone and she answers. So if we ever have any questions, I personally just text Lieutenant Governor Polito, and she gets right back to us. Now, from the legislature point of view, we're awful lucky down here to have the Speaker Pro Tem, Pat Haddad, next door. And she organizes a conference call once a week. Matter of fact, it's coming up a little later this morning, and that gives us the up-to-date information on what we're experiencing up at the State House, and also gives us a direct link to be able to advocate for the things that are important to us.
Let's talk about the legislature in specifics now. The legislature hasn't been in formal session for quite some time. It's still in an informal session. In terms of your work, how difficult is it? What are you hearing about if there's any possibility of getting back to somewhat normalcy in terms of the legislature? And maybe specifically in your case, you serve on a number of committees that probably hasn't seen much work being done, correct?
The committee work was basically finished for the term anyway. All bills have to be heard by the committee to which they're assigned by the end of February. So, except for a few late files that sometimes get looked at, the committee work was done. In fact, right now we're in the midst of the budget, and that has been put back because of the pandemic. The first piece of the budget is to hear from experts on what we can expect for revenues for the coming fiscal year. And as you know, Senator Roderick's, being chair of the Senate Ways and Means, listened in. Well, we all had an opportunity to listen, but he and Representative Michael Witz were running the show, and they last Tuesday heard testimony from the experts on what we can expect for revenues next year, and it was pretty ugly. I think the consensus forecast is that we can expect revenues to be about $4 billion below plan. So we'll be, over the next month, figuring out how to deal with that. Fortunately, we've got the third largest rainy day fund in the nation, $3.5 billion. And a lot of people complained about how much money we were tucking away this past year. They said, really, there's a lot of needs, and you should be meeting those needs, not putting money away. Well, who would have guessed that we would be needing that money so quickly? So we'll be able to draw on that. There'll be some money coming in from the federal government. We don't know how much. And then certainly there will be cuts to the programs. I think everybody agrees with that.
Has there been any further talk, Representative, about the need to, when voting on the budget, that's probably going to need a formal session? Is that safe to say? And if so, has there been talk at all about remote legislating in terms of trying to do? We've all learned the word Zoom, right? And Zoom meetings and meeting that way. Has there been any further talk about maybe meeting as a group remotely?
Yes. We're probably going to hear more about that this morning. I think that seems to be the way it'll have to be. And I understand that there's nothing in the Constitution that prohibits that. So I know that Speaker DeLeo and Senate President Spilka have been working on that. And I think we're going to hear pretty soon how we're going to get that done.
And also, in the midst of all this, I just happened to be looking at the political calendar last week. As state representatives, those of you who may be seeking re-election coming in the fall, you actually have a deadline coming up soon to submit nomination papers for the fall election. Has there been any talk changing that at all? Yes.
So normally we have to have our nomination papers in to the municipal election commission by April 28th. And the Supreme Court just made a ruling. It reduced the number of signatures that we had to get. That didn't affect me because I had more than enough. And then it gave us until May 5th rather than April 28th to turn those into the local municipality. And then, as you know, after the local municipality has confirmed those signatures, we have until, I think, May 28th to turn those into the Secretary of State office and officially become and get officially put on the ballot. Yeah.
So, the wheels of government just keep moving along, regardless of what's happening with everything else. That is what makes, I guess, our great government the way it is, in terms of there's some continuity there. Representative Paul Schmid, any last words to any of your constituents out there before we sign off?
Well, Keith, I would like to mention that I have the South Coast Health banner. Mm-hmm. The big red banner behind me, and that's intentional. I just want to thank all the frontline workers who have been supporting us, and there's no, and of course that encompasses healthcare workers in our hospitals, healthcare workers in the nursing homes, the folks at Dunkin' Donuts who are there for us in the morning. And it also applies to all the folks at Joseph Abood, Merrow, and Matuk, who stopped what they were doing and started making protective equipment and masks. But I just want to give a special shout out to South Coast Health, because those folks have really taken a leadership role in protecting us, all of us here on the South Coast. And when this is over, the story will be written about how they stepped up to protect us. And hats off to them, Keith.
State Representative Paul Schmid, I appreciate your time. We'll talk again soon. Please remain safe. Thank you.
And the same to you, Keith, and to all of your viewers.
All right. I want to again thank State Representative Paul Schmid for joining us today as we continue to provide coverage of COVID-19 pandemic. We invite you, as always, to continue to visit our website at frmedia.org. You can get more information about how we're covering COVID-19 here within the city of Fall River. And other information about our Channel 95 program schedule you can find at frmedia.org. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. We'll talk again soon. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great Tuesday.